Okay. Welcome back after lunch. If everyone wants to put on their headphones, we will transition into silent disco world. Here we go. All right, all right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had some delicious food and avoided being caught in that downpour. For anyone who wasn't here earlier in the morning, my name is Melissa Ablett-Jordan. I'm the host of Upstream Fireside Chat in this stage. My background is in innovation policy, startups, and supporting and building innovation communities in the US, EU, and Asia. And I am thrilled to be here now with Bibi Yorison. And Bibi is the founder and CEO of UMOB. And let's kick things off. We only have a few minutes together, so we'll be super pithy. Let's kick things off and tell me what UMOB is, what you guys do. Tell us about it.
Will do. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bibi, founder and CEO of UMOB. And UMOB is, in a very short sentence, your one app to write them all. So what we have been building with UMOB is a uniform platform which you can use in the Netherlands and in Europe, and hopefully in the future also in Asia and in the US, to book all your forms of mobility. So that's going to be cabs, public transport, bikes, cargo bikes, mopeds, etc. So what we do is we combine everything that's already there into one app so that you as a user do not need 20 more apps to book your taxis, mopeds, etc.
Right. So as I have Felix, Check, Lime,
Yes,
everything open, and I'm looking which scooters are available.
exactly.
You guys are combining that all together.
Yeah. So we have been building an app with a real-time map where you can see all the vehicles available. So you only have to use one map to see which thing is where or to book your cab. So no Bolt or Uber or all those apps needed anymore.
That's awesome. There seem to be really interesting types of data that you could get from this, or really interesting types of ways that you could understand behavior of users. Talk a little bit about that.
Exactly. So looking into the users of the product, I think what we do see if people use 10 to different 20 apps, they all have a different account with a different payment system, different ride information, different information about the user. So when we aggregate all that data with integrating all the vehicles into one app, we can see each movement that a user is making. So for example, we can exactly track if you are booking your train ticket to get from A to B and arriving at your central station in Amsterdam, for example, and you take your bike to your final destination, we can exactly measure that. Where all the single apps and single operators only can measure one part of that total journey. So I think it's very interesting to see how we can aggregate all that data to see how people are moving in cities, but especially between cities and also between countries. Combining all of that is very valuable information where we can help the government, where we can help municipalities in how to transform their ecosystem and how to develop mobility within a city and how to create better paths to move from A to B, how to prefer bikes over private cars in cities, etc.
And at a time when mobility is, pun not intended, moving so fast, there's so many new players entering the market,
Yeah.
so many new options. I think the Rotterdam has certainly changed its landscape with scooters coming on the scene, or
Yes.
what I as an American call a scooter. So talk to me a bit right now about your scale, Bibi. Where are you guys operating? How many markets are you in? What does that look like?
Yeah. So we launched the platform 1 year ago in the Netherlands, which is actually our home base. So we have been starting operations in the Netherlands, where we currently have access to over 30,000 vehicles. So that's quite a lot if you combine all of that into one map. And to give you an idea, end of the year, we will give you access to 500,000 vehicles. So I think the scalability of the platform is huge. And how that works is that we work together with the transport operators. We fully integrate them within our platform. So it's important to fully integrate them because then you can also direct access them from our app. So no deep links or switching between apps. And I think the best part of what we're doing is it without adding additional vehicles on the street. So only using what's currently there, we have a huge scale that we can achieve in Europe. So what I always like to use as an example is if you go to Amsterdam, our goal is to provide you with a vehicle or an option or public transport within 3 minutes walk. If you go to Amsterdam, for example, and you want a sustainable mobility option within 3 minutes, only Czech or only Felix needs over 10,000 vehicles to achieve that density in one platform. And that's not possible with one single operator. So if you combine all of these operators, you now have 30,000 vehicles available and end of the year 500,000 without owning any vehicle in the application itself.
Yeah. And so you have the data on these rides. You're maybe able to have conversations with municipalities about that, advise them. What do those conversations look like? What types of things are cities curious to know? What do you think they should be curious to know?
Yeah. So I think looking into the government or whatever company or industry you're looking at, I think everybody is facing a huge challenge with mobility. I think the dominance of private car ownership is huge in every city, also in Europe. And we are moving towards car-free zones, but I think in the future, by 2030, we're also moving to car-free cities. So cities need an alternative because you can get rid of private cars and you can make it a little bit harder to own them. So, for example, increasing parking costs, etc. But there needs to be an alternative. And I always said there needs to be an alternative on the alternative, because if your alternative is Czech and Czech is leaving a city, or your neighbor took the Czech vehicle in your street, you don't have any other options and you don't trust on sustainable mobility. So that's conversations that we are having with municipalities. They are very interested in seeing how people are moving from A to B. Where can we create hubs, for example, that we know for sure that people know where to find the vehicles, how to use them, where they can park them, etc. I think another challenge is not only with municipalities but also with real estate developments. It's not allowed anymore to take your car if you're moving into a city, into a new building. So there needs to be an option for the new people to use instead of their private cars. So I think there's lots of topics.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, taking one step back, you guys may talk to us about your revenue model. How does that work? And are you exploring multiple revenue models as you kind of work through the product and building the business?
Yeah. So I think looking into the revenue models, there are multiple options, but I think to keep it very basis here is that the basis model is we have a revenue where we have a commission on each ride. So we work together with the transport operators in the Netherlands, but also in Europe, in order to create more rides on their vehicles. So for example, operators, let's say they have now 8 to 10 rides per vehicle per day. We want to make that 15. So we want to create the revenue together and make that, that pie larger, how they say it in Dutch. I think in the future, if you become an aggregator in all those mobility options, and if you become an aggregator in the data, there are also lots of options to do with that. So you become an advertising platform, or you can work with municipalities for data. I think what I would love to see in the future is if you have the data, we can really personalize your experience. So another business model would be memberships, for example. So we know exactly how people are using the services. That can be very different to you than to your neighbor, for example. So we can say, hey, we do see you live in Amsterdam. We have all of these options there. So for 10 euros a month, you can use all of that unlimited. You don't need your own car anymore. So that's one. I think in the future, not only customers, but also companies are facing challenges in how can we get rid of leasing cars. So I also see a big option there. And let's say like, hey, you now have a leasing car for 600 euros a month. What if we give you 600 euros to use for public transport, taxis, mopeds, bikes, scooters, etc.?
Right, kind of matching the new type of mobility to the company benefit, because company cars are kind of an old school thing, and I think
it is, and I would really love to see that companies would see mobility as a benefit that they can give to their employees rather than just giving them a car and see whatever is going to happen there.
Right. So what is the name of the game in terms of growth? Is it acquiring users? Is it more partners? We were talking to Evelien from WAPA, and she said, if you're building a marketplace, which in some way you are, marketplace for mobility, inventory comes first. What are you most focused on? What's kind of the key to growth?
No, I think the major key to growth, and I think especially within this app, so it's a new app, it's a new model, is that we need enough density, we need enough operators, we need to have a full product.
Yep.
Because I think if you have that, then it's easy to reach out to people, say like, hey, we created this app, everything is in it. You don't need anything else anymore. So that's our road to growth, I think, to begin with, to make sure we have all those 500,000 vehicles end of the year. We acquired one major player in the industry called Maas Global beginning of this year, and that really allowed us to grow on a faster pace because we're a tech company, and combining 50 different mobility apps into one, making that one uniform way to use it, can be very complex.
Yeah.
So we saved a lot of time there. I think after that we have lots of collaborations with municipalities, with the government, with schools, for example, with student companies, with I think everybody. Also here today with Upstream, we really want to make people aware of the fact how they travel to events, to work, to friends, to other cities. So I see lots of options there. We also work together with the transport operators. I get that question a lot, like why do they want to work with you? Well,
Yeah.
in the end, they also want a bigger market. You
Right.
know, we can use lots of more rides on those vehicles every day. So they help us also to get new people in to use their services. So we are able to give our users a first trial package, for example, that they can use the services to try it out, to create that account, and there are multiple ways there to do so.
Yeah. And this feels like a very good time to mention that if you sign up for UMOB today, you'll
Yes.
actually get a €15 credit, which could, just for example, be used to go to the after party,
Exactly.
after stream at Barstrom. So check that out. You can help Bibi in her journey of adding more users to the platform and growing a Rotterdam company. So I loved, you made an analogy with me where you said we want to be the booking.com
Yeah.
of mobility. And I felt like that was a really good way to also explain, hotels want to be on Booking because it's access to more users.
Yep.
Mobility providers want to be on your platform for more users.
Yep.
But I think you also said it in terms of your dream for the scale of UMOB. Talk to me a
Yeah.
bit about what you're hoping to accomplish. How big do you want this to get?
Yeah. Well, I always use indeed the example of booking.com because in the end, my dream is that if you think about booking a cab, that can be Uber, that can be Bolt, that can be everything, leasing a bike, leasing a car, renting a car, whatever you name it, that you think about us, that you think about, oh, I need to open the UMOB app, that you can see all the options near you. You can navigate which vehicle is the nearest vehicle near you. You can choose in the future which one is the most sustainable option. You can choose which one is the fastest. So you have all the options so everybody can choose whatever they want. And what I always liked as an example is I think Uber built a very nice service which you can use all over the world. People trust it. So if you enter, for example, Italy tomorrow, your phone rings and say, hey, welcome in Italy. You can use us here as well. That's what we want to achieve. Because not only in the Netherlands, but if you go to Paris tomorrow, there are 10 different operators than the Netherlands, which we don't know how to use. So with UMOB, you can then also use our app in those other countries.
Yeah.
So in the end, we really have one platform to use them on.
It's great. We also heard from Hamed earlier today about how important a team is. And one of his pieces of advice to entrepreneurs is build the right team around you.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your team, your philosophy, who's on it, what
Yeah.
does that look like?
So I think most important in this whole journey is the team, especially also with funding rounds that we have been completing in the past few years pre-revenue. Then all that matters is the team. People
Yeah.
have to believe in the team that they are capable of doing what they say, capable of making their promises come true. And because we do not own a single vehicle, we do not have a very large operations.
Right.
That has been different in my previous companies where you have a large operation to take care of. We don't have that, so we can be very critical on the person that we hire.
Yeah.
And I've always been very critical about the first 10 hires because I truly believe that the first 10 hires are responsible for your company culture, what you're going to do, and all the hires after those first 10 are going to look like the first 10. So that culture is important. I think we have a very diverse team in terms of experiences, in terms of how people think, how people react, and that's a very good balance. I think, the team is all that matters, and my other co-founder is here as well. So
Woohoo!
I'm very happy with him as well, and I think together we
Good news.
created an amazing team, and everybody is working there. Everybody in the company is a shareholder. I think that's important to mention.
Yes.
Everybody is there for themselves, but also because they believe in the product and making this a very big thing. And especially also for the tech guys, it's a very interesting product because it's so complex and they love complexity, thank God. So, so we have been very, I can say critical, I think, with the team, but in the end, that's also what makes us UMOB, what makes people happy about us, about the product, and what's also making municipalities, government happy, and in the end, the user. So
Yeah. And I just want to underline the fact that you guys have equity with your teammates at this scale. I love it's historically, I've known that more as an American thing. I was surprised that few Dutch startups actually do that, but I think it's so critical and it's a really cool way to kind of keep building the ecosystem by hopefully making more successful entrepreneurs who can go out and invest and do really cool things in the future when you guys have an exit or something big happen with UMOB, which you certainly will. We have time for one question. So if anyone in the audience has a question, you can raise your hand. We have one right here. Go ahead. Oh, and I don't think our sound cube is on. Right, there we go. You're good.
Now it is.
Thank you. I was wondering about the mobility providers.
Yes.
Are they genuinely happy with you, or are they like, oh, since they're there, we'd better join them? I was curious.
Yeah.
What are the dynamics that they have with their competition
Exactly.
and the rates, the commission that you have?
Yeah. Well, I think in general they're happy because also I think the fact that we were able to get them all on board says something about how we collaborate with them, how we work together. I think they have been building, of course, their own applications in their own fleet for quite a long time. But I think in the end, if you look into the total movements on a day, so 1 or 0.1% of all movements on a day has been made with shared mobility. So they know they need to do better, and I think one way to do better is to have more access and to have better access. So we work closely together and to see like, hey, how can we continue your operations and your app and ours at the same time? And how can we make sure that we attract a larger group rather than the group they already have? Because they have difficulties sometimes with reaching out to the larger audience. And they are mostly focused on their fleet and their operations, which costs lots of money, of course. So we can help them in terms of marketing budget, making the brand more visible and getting more rides on the vehicles in the end. So make the pie bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Bibi, it's super awesome to have you here. A reminder, again, sign up for UMOB, get a little bit of money to ride on over to the after party.
Drive safe.
Drive safe, carefully, with your helmet on if you're on a scooter. Yes. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. A round of applause for Bibi.
Thank you.
And meet us back here in 13 minutes. We're going to be talking to Sam Felt, who is a successful DJ and a successful entrepreneur, on how he uses both his right and left brain. So looking forward to that. Thank you, everyone.